I sat at the kitchen table as my wife returned from grocery shopping. Spotting the legal pad and pen before me, she inquired, "What are you up to?" "I've decided to accept your challenge," I replied. "Challenge? I don't recall issuing any challenges," she said, puzzled. "Remember last week when we were reading those stories online? I criticized some of them, claiming I could do better. You doubted me, saying I lacked creativity," I reminded her. "I suppose I did say that, but it was based on your academic performance. You never excelled in writing classes, your grades were mediocre at best," she reasoned. "Well, I believe I can rise to the occasion," I retorted. "Sure, whatever. Can you help me with the groceries?" she asked, changing the subject. After assisting her with the bags, I returned to the table to write. As she prepared dinner, she inquired, "What's the story about?" "I'll keep it under wraps. You can critique it when I'm finished before I post it online," I replied. I didn't anticipate it being too challenging. My college grades weren't stellar, but I never invested much effort. My parents coerced me into pursuing a business degree to join the family business. Despite my disinterest, I complied and eventually started working there. Glancing at the pad, I began to write, "My name is Josh Barnum. I work as an aircraft mechanic for a major airline, and I'm married to Melinda, who works as an office manager at an insurance company. Melly and I have been together for over 11 years, 9 of them as a married couple. We met in college during our sophomore year, and while it was love at first sight for me, it took a bit longer for Melly to come around. It took 3 months before Melly agreed to go on a date with me. Our connection was immediate, and by our 7th date, we had become intimate for the first time. From then on, we were a committed couple, sharing moments of intimacy 2 or 3 times a week until the summer between our sophomore and junior years. During that summer, I worked long hours for my Uncle Bill's landscaping company, often laboring 10 to 12-hour days, 6 days a week. This left little time for weekday dates with Melly. After 3 weeks of only seeing me on Sundays, Melly began seeing other men. When I voiced my displeasure, I was given an ultimatum: accept it or risk losing even our Sunday rendezvous. It was a pivotal moment in our relationship. My love for Melly had been instantaneous, and fearing losing her completely, I acquiesced. However, this decision unknowingly set a precedent, indicating to Melly that she could push boundaries without consequence. 3 weeks later, a Friday afternoon was cut short due to heavy thunderstorms. Hoping to salvage the evening, I called Melly, only to discover she already had plans. Without a word, I ended the call. Learning of a party at Mike Matson's, I decided to attend, a decision I would come to regret. Upon arrival, I witnessed Melly in an intimate embrace with Dick Moore, followed by a passionate kiss and suggestive dancing. Disheartened, I left without a word, refusing to witness her affection for someone else. The following Saturday, I worked another 12-hour day, resigned to the reality that Melly would likely be out with another date. Typically, I'd arrange a Sunday outing with her, but this time, I refrained from calling. The image of her intimacy with Dick Moore fueled doubts about her fidelity. Despite her claim of not dating any one guy for more than 4 dates, witnessing her behavior at Matson's party left me questioning if she was involved intimately with all of them. If Melly was indeed intimate with others, I realized I could be at risk, considering our regular intimacy on Sundays. I believed the notion that when you're sexually active with someone, you're essentially engaging with all their past partners. This led me to contemplate getting tested for STDs. Anticipating Melly might call me on Sunday morning, I decided to keep away from home for the day. Upon returning for dinner, I learned she had tried to reach me twice. I waited until after dinner to return her call, where she confronted me about not contacting her earlier. Her response was defensive, insisting that she wouldn't stay home on prime date nights just because I couldn't make it. Feeling uncertain about our relationship after witnessing her behavior, I expressed my doubts to her. Melly urged me to come see her the following day after work, promising that we needed to talk. Despite my reservations, I agreed to meet her. On Monday, after a 12-hour workday, I arrived at Melly's place a little past 8. Her mother informed me that Melly was waiting for me on the patio. As I approached, I overheard a troubling conversation she was having on the phone, hinting at further complications in our relationship. Rather than confront her immediately, I entered the house noisily, prompting Melly to join me outside. Sitting at the table, I waited for her to initiate the conversation. When she finally did, I expressed my disappointment in her behavior at recent gatherings, feeling betrayed by her apparent lack of boundaries with other men. Despite her protests, I couldn't shake the feeling of disillusionment. Realizing our relationship might be irreparably damaged, I decided to leave, suggesting that getting tested for STDs might be prudent given the circumstances. As I walked away, Melly followed, her expression reflecting shock and confusion. "Do you really believe that of me?" Melly's voice wavered, her expression pleading for reassurance. "What I witnessed on Friday night was concerning, Melly. I can't afford to take any risks," I replied solemnly. As I drove away, leaving her standing there, I couldn't shake the sense of unease that lingered in the air. I underwent testing and thankfully came out clean, but I never mustered the courage to inform Melly. We avoided each other for over a week until a surprise encounter in the student cafeteria. "You didn't call me on Sunday," Melly remarked, taking a seat at my table. "No need," I responded tersely. Melly expressed her frustration, questioning why she should alter her schedule because of my job demands. I attempted to explain my perspective, likening my job to a form of training for our future together. I stressed the challenges we might face once married, especially if my career path led to unpredictable hours. Despite our differences, we agreed to discuss the matter further that evening. Eventually, Melly conceded to limiting her dates to Fridays and Saturdays, ensuring they were in the company of our mutual friends for accountability. With the landscaping season coming to an end, our relationship stabilized through our junior and senior years. Despite a few lapses, I chose to overlook them, driven by love. After graduation, Melly moved in with me, and we relished the newfound freedom of living together. Despite my demanding schedule at the airline, our bond deepened, fueled by our shared affection and newfound intimacy. Melly, armed with an accounting degree, secured a job at an accounting firm, maintaining regular hours from 8 to 5, with weekends typically free. However, during tax season, spanning from late January to early May, her workload intensified, often requiring 10 to 12-hour days and occasional Saturday shifts. 5 months after graduating, we tied the knot, with both sets of parents contributing to the down payment on a spacious 4-bedroom ranch in a desirable neighborhood. Preferring to delay parenthood until we were more established in our careers, Melly converted one of the bedrooms into a home office. Our new home boasted a sizable patio, where we wasted no time in installing a hot tub that quickly became a favorite gathering spot. Hosting a housewarming event shortly after its installation, we found ourselves entertaining guests every weekend, although my work schedule often limited my participation. As we integrated into the neighborhood, invitations to barbecues and gatherings became commonplace, leading us to reciprocate with a few of our own. We formed close friendships with our neighbors, fostering a sense of community on our street. The first 2 years of marriage were idyllic as we adjusted to our respective schedules. However, things took a turn when Melly grew restless on weekends, recalling a concern I had voiced during our college days. Unbeknownst to me initially, Melly began indulging in Friday night outings with her female coworkers, conveniently omitting mention of these excursions. Gradually, she extended her social calendar to include Saturday nights, ensuring she was home before my return. Her activities escalated to include dates with colleagues and individuals she met during her outings. Unaware of the extent of her infidelity, it was a neighbor across the street who eventually shed light on her clandestine affairs. He witnessed Melinda's indiscretions firsthand one Friday night while having drinks with a client. Despite the shock, it wasn't entirely unexpected. Learning that his client's brother worked as a part-time private detective on weekends and at a fraction of the usual cost, he seized the opportunity. For a mere $600, he enlisted the detective services to surveil Melinda from the moment she left work on Friday until she returned home, as well as throughout the entirety of Saturday. What they discovered was devastating. Friday evening, Melinda wasted no time in engaging in intimate activities with a stranger at a bar before checking into a motel. The following day, she remained home, entertaining her supervisor from work with explicit acts in the privacy of their backyard. Armed with this evidence, he consulted a divorce attorney who advised pursuing legal action against Melinda's boss for alienation of affections, especially if the company's policies condemned such relationships. Excited by the potential financial gain from the boss's ownership of the company, the attorney eagerly prepared the necessary paperwork. Intent on maintaining a facade of ignorance, he acted oblivious to Melinda's betrayal, successfully concealing his newfound knowledge. A week later, as he visited the attorney's office to finalize the divorce proceedings, he received unexpected news, a taped confession from Melinda's boss, boasting about their affair. Concerned about the legality of such evidence, he questioned the attorney, who assured him that the tape, coupled with the informant's motivation to discredit Melinda's boss, could be admissible in court, especially given the lack of consent recording laws in their state. With newfound confidence, he authorized the attorneys to proceed as he deemed fit, eager to bring closure to this tumultuous chapter of his life. After completing the story, I gave it a once-over and deemed it satisfactory. Glancing at the time, I realized dinner was imminent. Summoning my wife from the kitchen, I handed her the manuscript and requested her feedback. As she began to read, her expression morphed into a frown, culminating in a dramatic gasp before she slumped unconscious. Quickly springing into action, I retrieved a glass of water and doused her face, prompting her to sputter back to consciousness. Just then, the doorbell chimed, and I suggested it might be for her. Confused, she stumbled to the door where a young blonde awaited, bearing an envelope. Identifying herself as Mrs. Melinda Barnum, my wife received the envelope before the blonde departed with a curt farewell. Upon learning she had been served, my wife succumbed to a second fainting spell. Foregoing the water this time, I swiftly maneuvered her into the room and shut the door, before retreating to the living room to enjoy a beer and distract myself with the television. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new videos.